Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon our city. We ask that you give this governing body the wisdom and discernment to make decisions that benefit not only our citizens but your people. As always, we ask that you protect our team members that are outward facing, whether that's police, fire, public works, building and grounds, those individuals that are out there, please protect them and keep them safe from harm. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So our minutes for the April 14th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
First by Mr. Steele, second by Mr. Harbin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes pass unanimously. 4 items of old business. And our first item of old business is request consideration of a ordinance to rezone 113 Comet Street from R20 single family residential to R10 single family residential. Mr. McEwen?
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. The next 4 items are actually coming from the planning department and applications that we've had submitted to the city for consideration. And the planning commission has reviewed these, and we'll take these individually, of course, but Mr. Maurice McKenzie will be providing the information on each one of these, and if there was any comments or anything from the public hearing at the planning commission. Mr. McKenzie, if you would start off with A1 and introduce it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the first one coming before you tonight is to a request to rezone 113 Comet Street from R20 single-family residential to R10 single-family residential. The property consists of 0.71 acres, and the applicant is wishing to rezone the property so he can subdivide it into 2 lots so he can construct 2 single-family dwellings. And there is evidence, it appears, that in the past it was actually 2 lots, but at some point a few years ago, the lot was combined into 1. So again, it looks like it was in the shape that you see in your attachment, but they do wish to return the lots to their original configuration. And the property is vacant right now. There was a house on it, but it was demolished about 18 years ago. The R20 guidelines, they require lot sizes to be at least 20,000 square feet in size, and by subdividing it, each lot will be over 15,000 square feet with lots that are 70 feet in width. So that will conform more to the R10 zoning standards, which requires lots to be 10,000 square feet in size with lot widths at least 65 feet. We do have an R15 zoning classification. It would have fit in those, but because of the lot widths being 70 feet, that did not comply with R15 guidelines. They need to be 80 feet. So that's the reason for the R10 zoning, to make it conform. But if you look at the zoning map and if you expand out and even see it on a different scale, there's really not a lot of R10 zoning in the general area, with R20 being the predominant zoning. But if you start looking at the lots in the R20 area in this neighborhood, you have a variety of shapes and sizes of lots. Some may be non-conforming to the R20 standards. So also beside this property, you can see 2 lots that are essentially equivalent to what this will be if it is subdivided. But what we did determine when looking at this on a larger scale, that as we go through the process of updating our zoning map, Unified Development Ordinance, we do want to take a closer look at this area to see if an R20 type zoning is the best fit for the area. So we will start looking at that a little bit closer as we move along with that process. But this did go before the Planning Commission at their April 15th meeting, and they unanimously recommended approval. No one was opposed to the request, and so it's coming before you tonight on first reading. And if you do have any specific questions, the applicant is in attendance tonight, but the Planning Commission did recommend approval because they see it as being valuable infill development, and also with the property being 2 lots originally, that's one of the other reasons why they recommended approval.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comment, Mr. Steele?
Just looking at the map, those 2 next to it, you said that it'd be approximately the same size, so have we confirmed that those are non-conforming lots in the R20?
They would be, yeah, and there's several in that area that fall under that 20,000 square foot threshold. Some are larger in that area as well, but there's a variety.
And these 2 would essentially be close to the same size as the 2 next to it?
They're very close. And again, with those lots that you're mentioning next door, they may be non-conforming in size, but since they are lots of record, they can be built upon. But nonetheless, from a standpoint of not conforming with the current guidelines, those lots, others in the area may not quite fit that R20.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Stewart?
I know this sits in my council district, and I just want to make sure, the only thing I was concerned about is just making sure I know we're going through the zoning process, looking at neighborhoods and making sure that the right zoning is applicable. And I just want to make sure, don't want to say, man, I wish we would just waited a little bit longer before we would have rezoned this, because it should be a R20. We put it as a R10, and I know you guys are looking at that, but just really want to make sure that that it really is going to conform with what is already out there, and that it wouldn't be detrimental to our long-term planning plan.
Right.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Here for now.
You said the applicant's here, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, the applicant
questions for
is in
that?
attendance.
He's going to be on 2 single-family?
That is our understanding, right. It's zoned single family, so it'll be single family houses. That's the only thing that would be allowed in that area. We don't have any house plans or anything like that at this present time.
And I guess, as we go through for infill development, we would treat that kind of similar to what we would do for new development, is making sure that cars are not hanging over in the street with driveways and things like that.
That's right. We will look at those items as well. Fortunately, these lots are deep where that shouldn't be an issue anyway, but again, we'll be looking at all those factors. Yes, sir.
And you still have the required setbacks currently in the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you still have that required regulation that they have to comply to.
Thank you, sir. Anything else, guys?
I can make a motion that we approve it to R20 to R10, single-family residential.
First by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Roberts, Jeff Roberts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Our second item of old business is request consideration of an ordinance to rezone 307 Concord Road from R15 Single Family Residential to LO Limited Office. Mr. McEwen?
Thank you. We did talk about this also on the referral, and we have just a little bit of overview as well on that. Additional information, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. This probably looks familiar to you because we talked about this property back in August of 2024. The applicant requested at that time to rezone the front portion of 307 Concord Road, about 210 feet in depth, from R15 to NC, neighborhood commercial. At the time, he was wanting to allow a food truck to operate on the site. Food trucks are considered restaurants, so neighborhood commercial zoning is what he was seeking. But this did go before the Planning Commission and City Council at that time. The request was denied because it was determined that the NC neighborhood zoning classification was a little too intensive for that section of Concord Road. As you know, it's getting a little further away from Main Street. But after it was denied, the applicant came back to us and inquired about the limited office zoning, which is a step down. This is the less intensive zoning classification. Basically, it does not allow restaurants, it does not allow retail, so it's more of an office-related zoning classification. And again, I know you're familiar with the site, but it has a commercial style building on the property, but with it being zoned R15, it can't be used for any commercial purpose unless it's rezoned. So that's why he was asking about at least getting it to LO limited office so it can be put to a productive use. It does not have a proposed use at the present time, but it would fall under the LO guidelines. But when the applicant came to us inquiring about the LO guidelines, we went and looked at section 14.2 of our zoning ordinance, which basically says if you have a request denied by the city council, you have to wait 1 year in order to bring it back. But it does say that the petition or one substantially similar shall not be reconsidered for 1 year. But the applicant did disagree with the city's position on that NC and LO are substantially similar. So he did petition the Board of Zoning Appeals to make an interpretation of that section of the zoning ordinance. And back in January, it did go before the board, and the board determined that the NC and LO zoning classifications are not substantially similar. So that allowed the applicant to go ahead and reapply for that rezoning rather than wait until August to do it. So that's why we're here today. But this property is 1.7 acres. It is a double frontage lot. It goes all the way back to Pine Lane, but the applicant's only seeking to rezone the front 210 feet to the limited office, and then the back part will remain R15 for future residential development. But again, the LO zoning permits professional offices, personal service uses, medical, that type of thing. The main difference, again, between the LO and what came before you the last time at NC is really retail, restaurants, that type of intensity. This did go before the Planning Commission at their April 15th meeting. They did recommend approval of this request, citing that this zoning classification is a little more appropriate than what the NC zoning was. In fact, beside this property is a piece of property zoned LO, so it is more in keeping with that zoning classification. Applicant is here as well if you have any questions for him.
Thank you, sir. You're correct. We have seen this a couple of times over the last 12 months, but are there any additional comments, questions for Ms. McKenzie or the resident applicant? Ms. Stewart?
Tell me again, what are the uses for the LO? You said personal uses. Give me that. What do you mean personal uses?
A florist, something low intensity like that. A personal service use, it says barbershops, beauty parlors, florist, art studio, things of that nature. So just low
right
intensity.
Next to it is a barbershop.
That's correct, and that's the piece of property that's zoned LO.
Okay.
And that came before you, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Any other
sir.
questions?
This resides in my district. I was glad that the applicant came back. I think this is, makes sense zoning. It's a good transition as you work your way towards Clemson Boulevard. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve.
First by Mr. Newton. Second by Dr. Thompson. Any further discussion? The lot on Pine Street, how big is that?
It will be big enough to
For
have.
15?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, I was looking today, I think there will be 30,000 roughly square feet. You may be able to subdivide it into 2 lots, 15,000 square foot lots.
You want applicant?
216,000 square feet.
2 16,000 square foot lots. So
Okay.
they could build 2 houses back there with the remaining acreage.
Thank you. Had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously on the first reading. Our third item of old business is request consideration of an ordinance to annex and zone to a PDD, which is a planned development district, approximately 22 acres located off the East-West Parkway, generally known as the Beltline Connector. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, we have a little additional information here tonight as well to present to you. I know we've been talking about this project for some time and concept opportunities here as well, and within our comprehensive plan. The project developer is here, so we can hear from Ms. Sarah Neiman in a bit, and Mr. McKenzie can introduce it to you and go over the PDD and some highlights in there as well. Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. The PDD document is included in your packet. It has more details, but when we go over this presentation, I'll hit the high points on that. But the applicant does request to annex and zone the northern portion of the property to PDD, Planned Development District. It consists of 22 acres. Actually, the piece of property is larger. It goes across on the southern side of the Beltline connector. There's about 16 more acres over there, but the annexation request does not include the southern portion. It's just the 16 or the 22 acres on the northern portion of the East-West Parkway. And although approximately 8 of the 22 acres is slated for multifamily units, the remaining acreage is not planned for development at the present time, so we don't have a lot of specifics on that. That's something that will be brought back to you at some point in the future. But the PDD document that you have in your packet has been written to follow the new comprehensive plans guidance relating to the East-West Parkway sub-area. This parcel of land is identified as mixed residential conservation design, and that's intended to accommodate the future growth needs of the community by adding single-family residential, low-density attached housing, or smaller density apartment buildings. And the proposed development approach emphasizes conservation design, which maintains trees, focuses on natural spaces. So that's what this area is slated for per our comprehensive plan. The PDD document that you have has 2 phases broken down into it, and I'll just go over the highlights of both phases. But phase 1 is a piece of property that consists of 8 acres. That's the one that's slated for development sooner than later. It has a maximum of 80 multifamily units on the property, about 10 units per acre. 25% of the property would be open space. The building setbacks would be 25 feet from the property lines, but 100 feet from the East-West Parkway. And landscaping, tree preservation will follow the city's zoning ordinance, so that will be followed in that regard. And with the phase 1, there's very little frontage along the East-West Parkway because it's mainly an entrance drive. But nonetheless, this one and the remaining piece of property, there will be a 100-foot green setback that will be required. So imagine a 100-foot green setback, and in your PDD document, you'll see the specifics for plantings, things like that, which is pretty robust. But you can see more information about the property for phase 1 in the packet. And then phase 2, like I said a moment ago, there are no specific development plans for the balance of the property, which is about 14 acres. But those details will be added through a public process when a plan is proposed. It will come back to the Planning Commission. It'll come back to the City Council for review when there's a development plan for the 14 acres. But the specific details we have in phase 2, again, it'll be handled through a PDD revision in the future, but we did add in the PDD document that landscaping, tree preservation shall comply with our landscaping and tree preservation code. Again, that 100-foot green setback will be required along the frontage of the East-West Parkway, along with landscaping, sidewalks, pedestrian connectivity. All of those things will be incorporated into phase 2 along with phase 1. This did go before the Planning Commission at their April 15th meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of it. No one was in attendance from the public to discuss this matter. We have received a handful of calls over the past few weeks since the property has been posted. A lot of them just asking general questions about what the proposal was. So it did go before Planning Commission on April 15th. It's now coming to you for consideration on first reading. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, but as Mr. McEwen mentioned, the applicant is here to go over the specifics of the 8 acres that is proposed for development.
Thank you. Maybe before we get into any specifics to staff and the developer, are there any public openness to the public? Any public comments that anybody would like to come up? Yes, ma'am. Come right on up to the podium. So, and if you would just tell us your name and where you live.
Yeah, my name is Lee Watson. I do not live in the city, but I live very close to this connector. I live in the county because I like being out. I like not having development all around me. And as you all very well know, when this connector was put in, it was a controversy. And part of it was We didn't want development on it. And we still don't want development on it. And I am very disappointed that there are not more people here tonight, because I hear all kind of outcry about it, but people don't want to come show up for some reason. I just would ask you to think about what the people in this community want. The reason Anderson is so popular, the reason we've got people coming, is because of the small town feel we've got. And a lot of you grew up here. You know what this place has been like. It's a great place to grow up. It's a great place to raise a family. We don't need it to be Greenville. I don't go to Greenville anymore because of the traffic, because all of the congestion. It's a mess. I don't go up to Clemson anymore because of what they've done to Clemson. And we don't need that here. We just don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Anyone else? I'll turn it back over to council. Any questions for Mr. McKenzie or Ms. Newman?
I know it says 50-foot setback in the drawings, but that's 100 foot.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Gotcha, thank you.
And I
Yeah.
think the 100-foot is in the PDD document also.
That's right. And I would add that the parkway was designed to have these these point of accesses into these properties. And so the owners of the property, that was negotiated in as part of the parkway, including some areas of the parkway that actually have turning lanes that can hold about 20 cars taking a left into some of the different developments. So that was negotiated as part of the acquisition of the land from the owners. And so you do have a single access point into this area, and so that was designated as part of that process through DOT, and that's that driveway that you have coming all the way back. So that would be your single access point for this entire piece of property.
Go ahead, Ms. Stewart.
Mr. McKenzie, did you say this was called, identified as residential conservation design?
Yes. In the comprehensive plan.
What's the difference between residential and mixed-use conservation design is in our packet?
Yeah, mixed use was a mistake. It should be, according to the PDD, or the comprehensive plan, that area highlighted, the piece of property we're talking about is called mixed residential conservation design. And basically, it's intended to accommodate the future growth needs of this area by adding single-family homes, accessory dwelling units, low-density attached housing, and small unit apartment buildings. That's how it's outlined in the comprehensive plan.
Just wanted clarification. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? I'd entertain a motion.
I had one other question.
Go ahead.
So you said that the 5 acre, looking at this plot, the 5.1 acre property to the left of the drive and the 10.317 acre property to the right of the drive, there are no current plans for that.
No plans for that. And that's considered phase 2 in your PDD document, and you'll see some details in there about the 100-foot setback, tree preservation, but that's all we really have, because when this comes for development at some point in the future, the document would have to be revised to incorporate what is being proposed, and it will go through a public process.
But we don't know what could come, what someone could ask to put on that property.
They could ask for anything, but again, our comprehensive plan states it's the mixed residential conservation design aspect of our comprehensive plan. That's what we would recommend following.
Any other questions, comments? It's Mr. Newton's area. But,
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question.
Mr.
So, help me to, this is, so if where the Beltline connector is, I don't think we can see that on our map, right?
Correct. You don't see that on your map. It's to the right of, if you were to see that on your map, the Beltline connector would be to the left. Yep.
Yeah, it's actually in your packet
Got it.
on another slide.
So this is the apartments where the new red light is, or, yeah, I see it up there now. The apartments where the new red light are just above it, right?
Yes.
And then this is the easement that was negotiated in whenever the East-West Parkway was purchased. The people owned the land, and part of the getting them to buy, letting them buy the land was to give them access to the road to develop their property, right?
Yes, so all the owners along the East-West Parkway and the design of the East-West Parkway incorporated in through the negotiations point of access to the property for development. So you can see in this case, same property owner on each side of the East-West Parkway in this case, and they have a single point of access for development into that area. And then there's other parts of the parkway, if you would go farther towards 81, that you actually see turn lanes turning into an area there, and that was negotiated in, and it was engineered in as well. So I think there's a turn lane in, if you were coming from 81 to the left, that could hold about 10 cars or so. And so I know there was some consideration back then of, from the county actually had a project for consideration for development to put something there at the time. And so that went to a different location. However, that was originally engineered into the project for the East-West Parkway.
Okay.
Two questions would be, maybe even to Mr. Harbin. I thought he was going down that line, but the land slopes tremendously going toward the lake. Would one, maybe that might even be a developer question, would one even be able to see the development from the parkway? Maybe?
Yeah, if you could, so when you first look at the property, and then I'll have Ms.
The
Neiman
park-
weigh in on it,
yeah.
you have the power lines, you have the transmission lines coming in front of it. Then you have our requirement of 100-foot buffer from the parkway, and then it has a kind of an upward slope and then just quick downward slope. And so this is the back part of that where it downward slopes. And Ms. Neiman, I know you have the elevations on that. Can you speak to that? Or in general?
You would not see the buildings from East-West Parkway. From the middle of the site towards the back, there is a fall of 63 feet. Our apartment communities, the tops of them typically are somewhere between 38 and 45 feet high. So you may see a little bit of tops of the roof line, but I think for the most part, we won't be very visible at all from the street.
Thank you. My second question would be, not toward you, Ms. Newman, but would be, and I think you alluded to this on, which I was part of ANATS when we had the opportunity to do the East-West Parkway, which I'm glad we ended up doing it because it's so well traveled, and I can't imagine our community being without the East-West Parkway. But on the Concord side of it, the land, what's that zone? It's already zoned for...
Planned for R20, so you could go in there now and put a lot of housing in there.
Which is similar to maybe...
20,000 square foot lot. So right now...
What subdivisions would be similar to that within the city?
Yeah, and there's one right off of it. Kind of, if you look at this whole area, Kings Road, this Wood Oak Drive in that area, it would look similar to that. Some of these lots are a little bit bigger than 20,000, and some are a little bit smaller, but it would be similar to that if you can see that on your screen. And so that would be similar if you took that and you continue to build that out. You could now build housing. And about that density, the only thing there is you don't get any conservation requirements or any, we have the tree preservation, we have these buffer requirements and so forth. So yeah, somebody could come in there now and develop into that area.
Mr. Steele?
I had a couple questions for Ms. Neiman as well. In this design, it shows, there's that 100-foot green setback, and then there's the one entryway. It appears that there's a sidewalk that comes down the entryway, correct?
Correct. If I can go back to the site plan. Yeah, so from the front, obviously,
Sorry, I am looking at the site plan.
Yeah,
here.
Duke Power has their
And it comes down and it
easement.
connects there's pedestrian connectivity, there's a little bench area,
Correct.
and then it goes down to a pocket park,
Correct.
you say?
Yes, yes. Right now you have the greenway on the opposite side of East West Parkway that's already developed, that y'all have already put in. Talking in discussions on whether or not that could be extended up where the light will be going, where the new fire station will be at the corner of Beltline Connector, cross the street, and then in the right-of-way would be, the greenway would extend towards this site to our entrance. And then you'll see that then what we have is we have like a boardwalk type entrance where the greenway would continue down the length of the boardwalk, the entrance into the property. And then you see that it veers off to the right and then back towards, potentially, that's a concept, potentially back towards the lake. I don't know if way back to the lake is a possibility at all. But the greenway would then be on our land, and we would donate that portion back, to the city to be able to put that in.
And to understand that correctly, so you're saying that greenway would be accessible to the public from the entrance on East-West Connector all the way down to the lake?
That is correct.
Yeah, the concept, let me add into that, because, so it's the Corps property, U.S. Corps of Engineers property, is part of the Lake Hartwell project. The idea here would be for the city to approach the U.S. Corps of Engineers and propose a wildlife viewing area, and maybe, because if you come in there from the boat, it gets real shallow quick, and then you have trees within the water, but it's really pretty, and it's a bird habitat. And the idea would be is to have a boardwalk through there, pocket park, and a wildlife viewing area, and you could possibly even toss in a kayak launch, which would be really neat, and the public would have full accessibility to that. So if you're biking or walking on the parkway, the idea is you could go down there, go to the wildlife viewing area, take a break, or take a look at the lake, and so forth.
And I generally, this is not for Ms. Neiman, but this is kind of generally, our attendees tonight expressed concern about development and growth of our areas in the county. I also noticed kind of at the other end, not on the connector, but right close there by TL Hanna, there were new homes, a new neighborhood put in behind, and there was also several townhome neighborhoods that went in across TL Hanna. None of that is in the city, correct?
No, we're really concerned about that corridor and how it's being built up. It's very intensive, and it doesn't, for us, that the particular townhomes that you're talking about, it's not consistent in zoning, because then right next to that, you have houses that are on some 3 acres, and then you're right next to very dense townhomes that are brought all the way up to the edge of 81.
But because those are outside of the city limits, we couldn't consider any of those development plans, correct?
Correct. Also, on Concord Road, there's some houses being built right at Concord, and it's not Reed, it's the next one down. They're currently being built, and they're a little pocket that's outside the city.
And
so
would those have to
correct.
be approved by the county planning commission and county council?
Yes, if they have zoning. And so that's the problem. Is just like you considered a little while ago. I think it's a good example of the commercial business that you were reviewing on Concord Road that ultimately City Council denied, and then it came back and there was proposals for different use and now less intensive use. There's many pockets all throughout Anderson County that just don't have zoning, so therefore anything can pop up at any time. And that's why you get a lot of storage units that are all throughout the county, just put up everywhere. And that's a big thing you kind of got to guard against, is indoor, outdoor storage just being popped up. There's one being built right now on Clemson Boulevard, I understand, prime real estate right to the left as you approach the lake. That's kind of disappointing to see.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, just I want to
Mr.
ask the
Roberts?
city manager if he would kind of reiterate Mr. McKenzie's point about protection for the future development should this move forward.
Yeah.
The second phase, the 2 parcels closest to the parkway. I know we talked about this development would be hidden out of sight. What happens as we rise uphill? Now we're looking.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you as part of this PDD for the remainder part of the property, that's the phase 2, and you can read through the restrictions on that. So it's coming in as restricted zoning in the PDD phase 2. If anything were to change as far as they didn't build to what's currently narrated out in phase 2 of the PDD, then that would have to go before council as a referral to planning commission, the whole public process, public hearing, come back to city council for 2 readings, the full process. And so that's what would happen. So it's it's restricted. And I also wanted to point out why I am talking that there is this subdivision, I believe it's less than Point, that was rezoned by the county off the Parkway. You know where I'm talking about, off Concord. Near this, backs up there, there's a pond back there. If you just go just over your, right here, you're going towards 81, going towards Concord, and there's a big dense subdivision on the left off the Parkway. It was rezoned by the county to R10 back when it was developed, and it has a lot of density in there. However, there's a pretty good buffer, and yeah, you can see the rooftops of houses and everything, but it's kind of an enclave off the Parkway. So I want to point that out.
I want to make sure, I heard something different. Were you talking about the proposal or the other 2 parcels?
I'm speaking specifically towards the future development of the other 2 parcels.
I think he was talking about
Yes,
the other 2 parcels.
Yeah, I spoke to that first. The first point was that, the second point was the other subdivision. But the first point being that it's restricted, and that it's restricted to the phase 2 in the PDD document.
The only way to change that is to come back before.
Correct. The only way to change is come back through the public process, referral to planning commission, and then 2 readings of ordinance to change the PDD.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
And don't mean to beat the dead horse. I just want to make sure I understand the protections in place for phase 2. So phase 2, our protections are, regardless of what's put there, they're going to have to be responsible for the landscaping and tree preservation code in the city, correct?
Correct.
And then there will be 100-foot, unlike what's shown on here, it says 50-foot, but it's going to be twice the size of that, green setback, that whatever's put there can't come within 100 feet of the current right-of-way, correct?
That's correct.
And then there will have to be basically sidewalks and pedestrian areas that connect into whatever is built in phase 1.
That's also correct.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Steele, would that, well, or that 100 foot, from what I'm reading, it says the 100-foot setback does not, is required, but doesn't include the area for the entrance drive. So would that be, the entrance drive would be coming off of the East-West Parkway? Where's the entrance drive?
It's designated. It's the current driveway. That's in the concept plan, as you can see in the visual here. You have one access point from the East-West Parkway.
So will you cut in right there, then from that point, 100 foot back from that point?
No, so it'd be from the public right-of-way, and remember, the public right-of-way goes deep into the property, and then you got 100 foot. It's shaded in green.
Okay.
That's just saying that driveway is the only driveway allowed in that frontage.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So it would be spurs, but.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, there won't be additional driveways allowed through that to serve those potential future uses. There'll just be one that serves all of the property.
Anything else, guys? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the rezoning of this acreage in a PDD planned development district off near the Beltline Connect on the East-West Parkway.
First by Mr. Horgan.
Second.
Second by Mr. Jeff Roberts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We have, counting, 6 approved, 8, 7,
7 to 1.
7 approved, 1, Mr. Newton, Mayor Pro Tem opposes. The last item of old business is request consideration of an ordinance to annex to R20 single-family residential, 0.05 acres located at 1212 Reed Road.
Mr. Mayor, we have been talking with Concord Baptist. I think my mic's still working. There we go. Concord Baptist for several years regarding plans of theirs in this area. Of course, they have a great piece of property, do a really good job maintaining it. I live very close to here, very happy with what the church does and how they maintain their property and buildings. Just a beautiful campus. There's a piece here highlighted in red. It's just one single parcel that's not inside the city limits, and so we call that a donut hole. And what that causes several problems. It causes problems from services, from, in this case, fire. Our fire services would not be dispatched to it, even though we'd be the closest fire department and most available fire department ready to respond. Also, from a police side, provides issues with that, of who serves it. In this case, the sheriff's department would be dispatched unless they requested us, since we're closer, to go ahead and be dispatched to it. From sanitation services, it also creates an issue there. And then finally, to the reason that through the talks is through the building and the permit process of not being comprehensive. If they were going through an expansion on campus. And so with that, those are some of the pitfalls of having donut holes within your city. And so when you do see these and you have an opportunity to annex those in by receiving an application from the applicant, you certainly want to fill in your donut hole so you have continuity of services, including building review and permitting. And so with that, that's why it's coming before you, for building permitting and review and some plans that they have. Mr. McKenzie, you want to speak further to that?
Thanks. Not much more to add, but approximately 15 years ago, the church did purchase this property. Then they expanded their parking lot onto this property. But yeah, the reason why it came to our attention is that they're expanding on their campus. They're building a new structure, and a small portion of it will encroach onto this property. So for plan review, permitting, everything else like that, it's best that it is inside the city for consistency purposes. And this did go before the Planning Commission on April 15th. They also unanimously recommended approval of this.
Thank you. And we all know Concord Baptist Church is one of our legacy churches within our city limits, and they do a good job of reaching out to the community. But are there any questions, comments?
This makes total sense. It's in my area, and I'll make the motion to approve the request.
First by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Mr. John Roberts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. We don't have any new business. We do have an executive session on our agenda, which is section 30-4-7A1, which is discussion of personnel matters relating to employment, appointments, and compensations pertaining to municipal court personnel. I would entertain a motion to go in executive session.
I'll make a motion.
First by Mr. Steele, second by Mr. Stewart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand in executive session. information from the management team, and no action will be taken at this time. Appreciate everybody that participated in the soiree. It was great. I know David and Andrew, and Frankie in particular, maybe not Frankie. David and Andrew had a lot of hands-on on it. I saw several of you during the course of the weekend. It didn't rain, which is good. The Savannah Bananas maybe took a little bit of thunder on Saturday, but we didn't have any incidences, and we had good weather. Any comments from you guys? Jeff, I know Dr. Thompson, Greg, I saw several, y'all saw John Roberts,
Dog well attended.
Tony was there.
Everyone else, thank you, that's.
Yeah.
I looked around and heard Tony behind me, and I'm saying, wait a minute, didn't he just have knee surgery? Hip replacement. Go ahead.
But I just like, more of all, not only just thanking our staff for the great job, but just thank all the businesses, on behalf of council for what all they've done. Because without them, the soiree would be nothing. And so just make sure you pass that sentiment along. We really appreciate all the downtown businesses and other businesses who may not be located downtown who came to participate.
And thankful for the committee and all their work.
Yeah.
Caroline,
Well, I was about to say. pay
Caroline
attention.
Gaddis.
Yeah, we'll have a volunteer and committee appreciation night sometime coming up. We'll let you guys know.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else with good order? Matt, you had something?
I'm good.
You good? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I thought we already did that.
They came out of executive session.
Okay.
Have a first by Mr. Steele,
Second by Dr. Thompson.
second by Dr. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.
I've got the PowerPoint.